Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Hairy Man Hoaxes and Hoodwinks. So glad you all could be here. It's been a rough week, and we will get into that way later and at the end of the show if we want to talk about what happened. But we are here for the historic series I've got going, part 2, no, take 2, let's say, and talk about the Bauman story. According to Theodore Roosevelt. And I've got some great guests tonight, of course. I had them ready last week and they showed up again. I love these guys. I love them. I don't know what to say.
Hoodwink powers, activate!
Ooh. Hey,
Hey,
Brent.
hey, what are you talking about? I never leave. I'm always like here, waiting for you to
You're
like
just always in the background.
power back on, and then I'm like, yeah, now we get to go.
And that's great. That's great for me. So I'm not alone over here.
Spend a lot of time in a dark room though, so
Oh God. Oh God.
more
oh,
shows
God,
would be
oh,
nice.
God. Yeah. Mr. Thomas Steenberg, welcome, sir.
There he is.
Hello, how are you guys doing today?
Good.
Doing
Man,
good,
the
doing good.
legend.
And now we need to make one for this guy, Jerry from the Buckwas crew.
I gotta tell you that I gotta say, that stupid searchlight just freaks me out. I wish they'd stop showing it because I'm telling you, it makes me want to run out of the room when I see it. Anyway, Nikki, thank you for having me back again. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. I love you guys. Love you coming on.
Hi,
We
Brent.
always have terrific
Hey.
conversations. What'd you do?
I said hello to Brent.
Oh,
Yeah. When you said if I wanted to come and
Hello.
hold the chair right next to Brent, it'll be fine.
absolutely
Kind of.
fine.
We're like
Yeah.
there.
Arm in arm? No.
Good to see you again.
So everybody, welcome again. And I see you out there. Sharon, you were the first in the house, dear. Love you. Thanks for coming and supporting me. I see Joe, Western New York Bigfoot Investigations. Thank you, sir. Mark Dodman. Hello, Gary Johnson. Cindy Finn. Angel. Gotcha. I see ya. Who else we got? Sandra Piper in the house. Jay Fritz. Hello. Who else have we got? We have got Cheese Board. Welcome. Life is a Trackway, of course, always here. And if I missed anybody, I am sorry. I love y'all so much. Oh, there's Joe, Squatching Cowboy. Come to wrangle us in.
Western
Western
New York Bigfoot Investigation Group, Joseph, don't forget him.
Joe who?
Joe who?
Joe who?
I did his podcast the other night talking about Elizabeth Bathory of all people.
Yes, I watched that. Very interesting. It
What's
was very
what's with you guys and these bloodthirsty killers, hey, for the past month or so? Starting to see a very dark side of you people.
We have to be entertained. That's how we get entertained.
Can't be into this without being a little macabre. I just enjoy being on a program now and then when we talk about anything but Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is. It's nice and it's refreshing. But tonight we are going to stick to the Sasquatch and go to the Bauman story. Now, as many of you know, this story came from Theodore Roosevelt, and I am going to actually do a little excerpt from his book, The Wilderness Hunter, which Thomas even has right there to show you what it looks like. And I do too. And I want to go into, well, once I do the story, and be kind, I only read through it once before I laid down the track on my own. I was just telling the guys I probably should have put it, text to speech and let the professional do it, or the computer do it. But I didn't. So, but I am going to go ahead with that excerpt. That way we can get into Roosevelt and the time, and I have the whole timeline and everything ready to go. But I think we should start with the actual story as said in Roosevelt's book. And let me see if I can do this. Why is that not coming up? Oh, because I need to be over here. And it's going to look weird for a little bit until I get over.
And what year was it? Did this book come out?
In 1890.
1890.
Yeah. I think 1890, 91. It was, well, I seen two different things that say two different dates, but this one also says
Late 1800s, though.
yeah. See, this one says in his 1892 book, and this one says 1890. I was seeing a lot of minor discrepancies in times, but
It might be a republished too.
Yeah.
Other times,
Yeah. There were so many even different pictures, different books that just reprint after reprint. So let me do this, and we're gonna do this. Let's see. I'm trying to look to see if it's going. There we go. So let me know if you guys hear it.
nothing's happening.
Oh, you're not hearing anything?
No.
Huh. Why is it not? Ooh, that's scary looking. How can I do this then? Oh, maybe. I have another idea.
So this book, is
Turn this down.
it a compilation of stories that he came across, or is it like an autobiography with this story included?
It's basically a collection of different stories concerning the American frontier in the late 19th century.
It's a fascinating book. He has hunted every creature that walked, crawled, swam, flew. And this is from the cowboy days part of the book.
When he was a younger man.
Much younger.
And a lot of the book adventures, and a lot of it's stories you heard from other people.
Nikki, do you want me to give it a shot? I got probably the same thing you have. I just don't know if it'll work on my end.
Yeah, go ahead and try it, because for some reason mine is the sound isn't coming through.
Okay.
I mean, I hear it, so I was no way for me to know it wasn't working. Okay.
There you go.
Seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I'm moving move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago.
First of all, I wish to give an account of the attack and tell of the famous incident of July
Oh, that's the wrong
1924,
one.
when the hairy apes
I
attacked our
love
cabin.
it.
We had been
Oh my, that was sorry. That was a slip. That was a slip. Okay. Oh, how embarrassing. Boy, is my face like Satan said, boy, is my face red.
The next one will be Jerry's vacation to Southern California.
Yeah, I was gonna say at least it's not a a different type of video.
Hey, it's not too late yet, my friend. Here we go. We'll try this one. Let's see what
I
Oh,
did
that
see-
looks like Roosevelt there. Yeah.
Frontiersmen are not, as a rule, apt to be very superstitious. They lead lives too hard and practical, and have too
Yeah,
little
that's
imagination
exactly what I
in
was
things
gonna do.
spiritual and supernatural. I have heard but few ghost stories while living on the frontier, and these few are of a perfectly commonplace and conventional type. But I once listened to a goblin story which rather impressed me. Weather-beaten old mountain hunter, named Bauman, who was born and had passed all his life on the frontier. He must have believed what he said, for he could hardly repress a shudder at certain points of the tale, but he was of German ancestry, and in childhood had doubtless been saturated with all kinds of ghost and goblin lore, so that many fearsome superstitions were latent in his mind. Besides, he knew well the stories told by the Indian Medicine men in their winter camps, of the snow walkers, and the specters, and the formless evil beings that haunt the forest depths, and dog and waylay the lonely wanderer who after nightfall passes through the regions where they lurk. And it may be that when overcome by the horror of the fate that befell his friend, and when oppressed by the awful dread of the unknown, he grew to attribute, both at the time and still more in remembrance, weird and elfin traits to what was merely some abnormally wicked and cunning wild beast, but whether this was so or not, no man can say. When the event occurred, Bauman was still a young man, and was trapping with a partner among the mountains dividing the forks of the Salmon from the head of Wisdom River. Not having had much luck, he and his partner determined to go up into a particularly wild and lonely pass through which ran a small stream said to contain many beaver. The pass had an evil reputation because the year before a solitary hunter who had wandered into it was there slain, seemingly by a wild beast, the half-eaten remains being afterwards found by some mining prospectors who had passed his camp only the night before. The memory of this event, however, weighed very lightly with the two trappers, who were as adventurous and hardy as others of their kind. They took their two lean mountain ponies to the foot of the pass, where they left them in an open beaver meadow, the rocky timber-clad ground being from thence onwards impracticable for horses. They then struck out on foot through the vast, gloomy forest, and in about 4 hours reached a little open glade where they concluded to camp, as signs of game were plenty. There was still an hour or two of daylight left, and after building a brush lean-to and throwing down and opening their packs, they started upstream. It was very dense and hard to travel through, as there was much grass. At dusk they again reached camp. The glade in which it was pitched was not many yards wide, the tall, close-set pines and firs rising round it like a wall. On one side was steep mountain slopes, covered with the unbroken growth of the evergreen forest. They were surprised to find that during their short absence something, apparently a bear, had visited camp, and had rummaged about among their things, scattering the contents of their packs, and in sheer wantonness destroying their lean-to. The footprint particular heed to them, busying themselves with rebuilding the lean-to, laying out their beds and stores, and lighting the fire. While Bauman was making ready supper, it being already dark, his companion began to examine the tracks more closely, and soon took a brand from the fire to follow them up, where the intruder had walked along a game trail after leaving the camp. When the brand flickered out, he returned and took another, repeating his inspection of the footprints very closely. Coming back to the fire, he stood by it a minute or two, peering out into the darkness, and suddenly remarked, "Bauman, that bear has been walking on two legs." Bauman laughed at this, but his partner insisted that he was right, and upon again examining the tracks with a torch, they certainly did seem to be made by but two paws, or feet. However, it was too dark to make sure. After discussing whether the footprints could possibly be those of a human being, and coming to the conclusion that they could not be, the two men rolled up in their blankets, and went to sleep under the lean-to. At midnight Bauman was awakened by some noise, and sat up in his blankets. As he did so his nostrils were struck by a strong, wild beast odor, and he caught the loom of a great body in the darkness at the mouth of the lean-to. Grasping his rifle, he fired at the vague, threatening shadow, but must have missed, for immediately afterwards he heard the smashing of the underwood as the thing, whatever it was, rushed off into the impenetrable blackness of the forest and the night. After this the two men slept but little, sitting up by the rekindled fire, but they heard nothing more. In the morning they started out to look at the few traps they had set the previous evening and to put out new ones. By an unspoken agreement they kept together all day, and returned to camp towards evening. On nearing it they saw, hardly to their astonishment, that the lean-to had been again torn down. The visitor of the preceding day had returned, and in wanton malice had tossed about their camp kit and bedding, and destroyed the shanty. The ground was marked up by its tracks, and on leaving the camp it had gone along the soft earth by the brook, where the footprints were as plain as if on snow, and, after a careful scrutiny of the trail, it certainly did seem as if, whatever the thing was, it had walked off on but night, one or the other sitting on guard most of the time. About in midnight the thing came down through the forest opposite, across the brook, and stayed. The branches crackle as it moved about, and several times it uttered a harsh, grating, long-drawn moan, a peculiarly sinister sound. Yet it did not venture near the fire. In the morning the two trappers, after discussing the strange events of the last 36 hours, decided that they would shoulder their packs and leave the valley that afternoon. They were the more ready to do this because in spite of seeing a good deal of game sign they had caught very little fur. However, it was necessary first to go along the line of their traps and gather them, and this they started out to do. All the morning they kept together, picking up trap after trap, each one empty. On first leaving camp they had the disagreeable sensation of being followed. In the dense spruce thickets they occasionally heard a branch snap after they had passed, and now and then there were slight rustling noises among the small pines to one side of them. At noon they were back within a couple of miles of camp. In the high, bright sunlight their fears seemed absurd to the two armed men, accustomed as they were, through long years of lonely wandering in the wilderness to face every kind of danger from man, brute, or element. There were still 3 beaver traps to collect from a little pond in a wide ravine nearby. Bauman volunteered to gather these and bring them in, while his companion went ahead to camp and made ready the packs. On reaching the pond Bauman found 3 beaver in the traps, one of which had been pulled loose and carried into a beaver house. He took several hours in securing and preparing the beaver, and when he started homewards he marked with some uneasiness how low the sun was getting. As he hurried towards camp, under the tall trees, the silence and desolation of the forest weighed on him. His feet made no sound on the pine needles, and the slanting sun rays, striking through among the straight trunks, made a gray twilight in which objects at a distance glimmered indistinctly. There was nothing to break the ghostly stillness which, when there is no breeze, always broods over these somber primeval forests. At last he came to the edge of the little glade where the camp lay, and shouted as he approached it, but got no reply. The campfire had gone out, though the thin blue smoke was still curling upwards. Near it lay the packs, wrapped and arranged. At first Bauman could see nobody, nor did he receive an answer to his call. Stepping forward he again shouted, and as he did so his eye fell on the body of his friend, stretched beside the trunk of a great fallen spruce. Rushing towards it the horrified trapper found that the body was still warm, but that the neck was broken, while there were 4 great fang marks in the throat. The footprints of the unknown creature, printed deep in the soft soil, told the whole story. The unfortunate man, having finished his packing, had sat down on the spruce log with his face to the fire, and his back to the dense woods, to wait for his companion. While thus waiting, his monstrous assailant, which must have been lurking nearby in the woods, waiting for a chance to catch one of the adventurers unprepared, came silently up from behind, walking with long, noiseless steps, and seemingly still on 2 legs. Evidently unheard, it reached the man, and broke his neck by wrenching his head back with its forepaws, while it buried its teeth in his throat. It had not eaten the body, but apparently had romped and gambled round it in uncouth, ferocious glee, occasionally rolling over and over it, and had then fled back into the soundless depths of the woods. Bauman, utterly unnerved, and believing that the creature with which he had to deal was something either half human or half devil, some great goblin beast, abandoned everything but his rifle and struck off at speed down the pass, not halting until he reached the beaver meadows where the hobbled ponies were still grazing. Mounting, he rode onwards through the night, until far beyond the reach of pursuit.
Very good. So there we go.
That's it.
That is the whole. Well, that is an excerpt from the Wilderness. There's also a second passage in the Wilderness Hunter where Teddy Roosevelt possibly have been describing a personal Bigfoot experience. He wrote that he and a friend were in a hunting trip, and this was in the state of Washington, and that he had contracted a Native American guide to help them in this remote area, and that the guide urged them to avoid this particular area due to some native superstitions. And what else?
Did they say where in Washington?
This one doesn't say. Roosevelt and his strange. Roosevelt made a point of mentioning that there was very strange noises he heard that night in camp, and he didn't recognize nor describe the noises, but he did give the distinct impression that they were unusual in his learned experience and found them to be unsettling.
Roosevelt doesn't seem to be like an easily spooked character. I think he got both feet planted firmly on the ground at all times. Even with the Bauman thing at the very beginning, I think he's giving the readers a warning when you hear a tall tale, because he brought up Bauman's German heritage and stuff like that.
Well,
Who believe a lot in golems and goblins and everything else. So he was sort of winking at the audience over Bowman's shoulder, Well, it's a good story, but
yeah, it's now one of the Sasquatch classics, of course. But you got to remember, Roosevelt had no knowledge. I mean, this is before the term Sasquatch was even coined. So he had no knowledge of what this grizzled old man named Bauman was talking about. So he kind of included it because to Roosevelt, it was a good monster goblin ghost story.
Correct.
Yeah, but apparently Bauman didn't know what he was talking about either, because at no time did anybody see the creature.
Roosevelt described Bauman as a grizzled old man, and Bauman was talking about something that happened when he was a young man. So it's probably been suggested
1700
happened in the 1850s before the Civil War. Yeah.
Oh, Bauman was an old man, and he took the story in 1933 or something. So that means Bauman. This must have happened to. This must have happened. It must have happened to Bauman in the late 1700s.
No, the 1850s.
Yeah, closer to the 1850s.
Yeah,
it was made in 1890.
Because
the story, he told Roosevelt the story in the 1890s, and it was old man, and about something that happened to him as a young man in the 1850s.
Yeah, because he published his book, and he was 32 years old.
We're getting a lot of different dates. Yeah.
Because Roosevelt described Bauman as a grizzled old man who told him this story. And that grizzled old man was talking about something that happened to him when he was a young man. So
what do you think? Did Bauman's imagination run away with him?
No, I think he's describing an encounter with a Sasquatch. And I think the reason why it was so hostile is probably because when he shot at it and thought he missed it, he probably wounded it, and the thing was in agony.
Right.
I missed the part where he shot at it.
The first encounter when he woke up and he saw the big shadow outside the lean-to. First night there.
No, that was the second encounter. The first encounter was 2 hours after they settled into the valley.
Well, they found their camp disturbed, but they didn't see anything.
No.
Do I have to read it to you again?
Go ahead. I'm enjoying this. No, I mean, they came into the valley and they said, hey, we got some daylight left. Let's go set some traps. They headed off, set traps, got back just before dark, and the place was ransacked.
That's right.
Okay. Next day, they went out business as usual, laying their traps, and they came back, and that night they had a visitor.
That's right.
They don't know what the visitor was, so you can't say it was a Sasquatch. They never saw the creature.
It sounds like a grizzly bear because with the bite marks and how it didn't eat its food.
Except when they looked at the tracks and said, "Motherfucker's walking on 2 feet."
I don't know. Yeah, I don't. That's weird. But they did both agree that it was not human footprints. They didn't say why they didn't think it was human footprints. Was it because of the size? Was it because of the shape? No, they both agreed that it was not human footprints and just left it at that.
Yeah.
Then they had the visitor come to them, and all he can say about that is that there's this large shadow at the end of the lean-to, and it's
stop right there. They didn't see the tracks until they had the visitor actually come to their camp, and Roosevelt shot it, and they looked at the tracks in the dark by torchlight.
Now you're going to make me go back and read it. Yeah. Okay, but irregardless, the incidents, irregardless of how they happened, and they never did see this creature. They came to the conclusion that it was not human because of the size of the footprints. And the midnight encounter, all that was there was this big black shadow that had a stink about it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if this is in the summer of the year, that's the time skunk cabbage blooms. And bears eat that because it's good for the digestive system. It's very spicy. And they like to roll around in it too. And as you know, skunk cabbage smells like a decaying corpse. So I'm just putting that out there. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just putting that out there.
Well, grizzly bears can be pretty smelly too at times. They have to walk through a river in the last 48 hours.
Correct.
And at that time, there was grizzly bears on the west side of the Cascade Range too. So
They're still there today, though. No, nearly not as many.
No, not on the west side, on the east side of Cascades.
Yeah, because this area is Montana.
Oh, it was in Montana. Washington was his. Yeah,
this happened in Ohio.
Yeah, they definitely got grizzly bears in Montana.
Montana.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
place for grizzly bears.
This happened in the mountainous region of western Montana and northwestern Wyoming.
Mm-hmm.
But he never actually saw it, though, right? Nobody actually saw it. So
him or his partner.
Yeah, so it could have been a misidentification, which commonly happens. I think even in this subject, where people misidentify a bear for something more than what it is.
Could be.
But you know what? You know what I love? It's like when you're watching a movie and you realize after having their camp destroyed twice by a powerful creature, they suddenly decide on the second day to split up. Okay, you go off and get beaver. I'm going back to the camp,
Well,
nothing ever happened.
Remember, these are mountain men, trappers of the last century. This is their living.
Yeah. But if you're going to follow that, then you can say to yourself, second time their camp was ransacked. Don't you think that these hardy pioneer stock hunters / trappers would have said, we got fur-bearing critters here. There's proof of it. We got them out there. We're not getting anything in our traps, but it's a lot of game in this valley. Don't you think they would have decided to stick around? And if that thing comes around, they're going to lay a trap for it. Or if not, they would track it down themselves and kill it. That's what I think they would do. We're talking back in the 1700s now, or 1800s.
1850s.
Yeah, it's plot hole in their story for sure.
And if they had fire and their firearms were undoubtedly single-shot muzzle loaders, as this is before the Civil War and no repeating rifle had been invented yet.
That didn't stop anybody from killing grizzly bears or what have you.
Oh, hell no.
Right.
Almost in the lower 48, yeah.
The entire time I had thought that this book was published way later in Roosevelt's life, and it wasn't. I thought he had written this after all his
This is written even long before he ran for president, and
that's what confused me.
Fought in the Spanish-American War.
Because in 1912 is when he had his expedition in the Amazon basin, and he almost died there from disease, and he was 54 then. The book, he was 32 when the book was published. And not only that, but he also led the Rough Riders and
Yes, they did.
the whole San Juan Hill and all that
And
jazz.
as a Canadian, we didn't like him very much because he was threatening us with war all the time, as well as the rest of the British Empire, and screwed us over on the border with Alaska.
Can't please everybody.
Sorry about that.
So-
As America, we apologize.
There you go. That's settled.
I just avoided an international war, guys.
That's what he was referring to when he said that famous line, "I speak softly but carry a big stick."
Yep.
Yeah.
He was
Okay,
the
let's-
26th president, and that was from 1901 to 1909. He held 2 terms, but the first one is because McKinley passed in office, and he took over.
Yeah.
I just want to say one thing there about with Bauman, that really is the crux of the story for me, that stands out as the singular event. Why did he never name his partner? I mean, back in those days, you didn't abandon your partner. You didn't even have to like your partner, but he was your partner.
Yeah.
And you had his back and he had yours no matter what happened.
We don't
So,
know.
I mean, Bowman just tells this story. His partner is the victim. End of story. But stories aren't as simple as that. There's loose ends to tie.
It may be very well, Bill, that when he talked to Roosevelt was basically not making notes, because at the time he wasn't planning to write a book, and he just did. Maybe he told him the name, and Roosevelt just didn't remember it.
Could be.
Has anybody ever verified this guy actually existed? This Bowman guy?
Well, according to a lot of researchers, they say neither Bowman nor Roosevelt ever identified Sasquatch as being the actual culprit. They never, actually identified any of that. And Bowman's identity has remained a mystery. They think he could have been a man by the name of Carl L. Bowman, who was, according to the Montana Historical Society, was born in Germany in 1831 and had moved west in the 1860s and died March 20th of 1909 near Melrose, Montana.
Yeah,
but it's unconfirmed.
And why didn't Bowman come back and get the body? I mean, he's parked there, for hell's sake. I mean, why didn't he drive to the nearest camp or settlement or whatever and get a couple of guys to come back with him, recover the body, and give it a burial?
How do you know he didn't?
I don't think they had cars. I don't think he could drive. Ride his horse.
I don't know if he didn't, but I also don't know if he did.
No, I don't.
I mean, he got the worst end of the stick, and he's not even mentioned.
He told to Roosevelt, and Roosevelt was sort of like smirking and thought of it as a good ghost story, and that's the only reason he included it in his book.
Yeah.
Who knows what else?
That could be
so
included or forgot about it, or who knows what. Yeah.
So when did this start showing up in the Bigfoot community as being, hey, this is a Bigfoot, or it really started to be pushed as a Bigfoot narrative?
When Anderson wrote his book in 1960.
I'm sorry, when who?
Ivan Anderson wrote his book in 1960.
So he included that.
I believe Aaron John Green definitely wrote about it. Yeah.
So they kind of introduced it and said, hey, this is got kind of some hallmarks of a Bigfoot potentially. Well, even though it has more potentials of a grizzly bear.
It's a guess. It's just like the David Thompson footprints and found around in 1811. Found in West Jasper, other costumes. There's no evidence at all that they were definitely Sasquatch-shaped footprints. It's just his description made it sound weird. Most people think probably a monstrous grizzly bear tracks he found, but we don't know. We'll never know. Yeah,
I think this story of Bowman leans more towards some kind of a rogue grizzly bear than anything else. What's this routine about leaving fang marks in his throat? I didn't realize Sasquatch had fangs.
Yeah, that kind of was an indicator there what you're kind of probably likely dealing with.
fangs or just teeth. Who knows?
We'll never know because nothing was corroborated. The Bowman even existing. Was this a tale of a very clever explorer, naturalist, historian of, Teddy Roosevelt created? Do we want to believe him?
No, I don't think. Yeah. I think there was an old guy who told him a story, and Roosevelt, he's not saying it was a Sasquatch. He didn't know what a Sasquatch was. Right. He never heard of the term because the term didn't exist. And he thought of it as a good goblin monster story. That's how he portrayed it in his book.
Help sell a book. So it's like for entertainment almost.
Yeah, a frontier monster story.
But isn't it amazing that one of the top 4 Sasquatch or Bigfoot stories, one of the top, no evidence of a Sasquatch being involved.
Yeah, and you can say
and it's still so today. It is still in the top 4 till this very day.
Well, yeah, it's really unfortunate.
It's one of the classic stories, so it gets repeated a lot.
Mm-hmm. Because of the popularity of Roosevelt, he was thought of as one of the best presidents of the country, even though he had several scandals while he was in office. And so that's the only reason I wanted to throw the wrench in, is that do we even believe Roosevelt? Do he wrote it in his book and he created this story.
I mean, he even says at the beginning of the story, it's a goblin tale.
Yeah.
That's why I don't think Roosevelt took it too seriously either. He just included it because it sounded cool.
Right.
Well, yeah, and it's to help sell a book, and it's for profit.
I just want to know now, you guys are here and maybe you have your own individual ideas on this. I hope so, because it's a thing. Why were Sasquatch so hostile and bloody thirsty up until about the 1930s? And suddenly after the 30s, they turned into, or after World War II, say, they turned into these elusive forest dwellers who just lob an occasional stone at people and hang about the forest for no apparent reason. Did the Sasquatch change, or did the people who talked about Sasquatch change?
I think it's the people who talk about the Sasquatch. The stories of Sasquatch probably changed with, its culture and more people going out to the woods. I think it's the evolution of the story itself.
And I may point out today, people do disappear in wilderness areas every year. And if you ran into a hostile Sasquatch, I have no doubt you would tend to disappear.
And I'm sure that there's hostile Bigfoots out there. I mean, just like there's hostile people out there. So you come across one and you spook it, or it's just having a bad day because it's got a toothache or whatever, and next thing you know, you're dead.
Or if it's a true story and actually was a Sasquatch, or it could even be if it was a grizzly bear. When he fired at it and thought he missed it, he may have hit it and it was pissed off.
But it's another account of people just automatically shooting at them. So it's like, well, yeah, why would they like us?
I mean, this is the 1850s, likely when this happened. They had to worry about hostile Indians all over the place too, all the time. Yeah,
But even if you go back to J.W. Burns' stories, I mean, everyone that the Chehalis people, every darn critter that the Chehalis people ran into, either chased them home, lobbed big stones on them, attacked their dwellings. I mean, it was all conflict. Anytime a human being came into contact with the so-called Sasquatch.
Right.
And you never hear that anymore.
Well, you remember, according to Chehalis folklore and oral history, the Sasquatch are a very primitive people that they defeated in battle and drove away into the wilderness, away from, well, I guess what they would consider civilization. It came back every now and then, once every 5 years, and gathered on the top of Morris Mountain. So the tradition is, if you're trying to make yourself look big, successful, and strong, what do? You invent an enemy that's more powerful than you, and of course, you tell the story about how you kicked their ass. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You do.
Now, Papa Craig says, I think as man, the wise possessed from flinging sticks to hurling lead, Sasquatch may have realized we could be dangerous. That could be part of it, but I mean, why did their behavior change so radically? I mean, grizzlies behavior, a grizzly bear is a grizzly bear, the same bear it was 400 years ago. It doesn't do a darn thing any different today than it did 400 years ago. Why does Sasquatch get this big?
You ever heard of old Clubfoot?
Well, it doesn't matter because you're going to get exceptions to the rule no matter what you're talking about. I'm talking about a species.
That's true.
And I just don't get why after World War II or before World War II, everything turned upside down. What you knew before, you didn't know anymore about the Sasquatch. Now you're hearing about a totally different animal in the way it behaves and the way it associates with things. And I guess Brent had it right. It was the people who had the narrative, not the creature, on what it didn't do.
Yeah, who was influencing the subject at that time? That's what you got to kind of look at. And it's the same today. People are popular, push things that they believe in. It doesn't necessarily believe that it's really Bigfoot related, but they believe it is. And so, look at who's influencing it back in the 1960s. And I think you two would probably know best on who the influential people were, because I don't think the four horsemen, so to speak, at that time really came together and really joined forces, so to speak, loosely speaking.
Well, you talk about sensationalism today. I mean, the old rags back in the 1800s, Mark Twain said, when the legend becomes truth, print the legend, because it sells more papers.
Well, Jerry, one of my favorite Far Side comics shows this big grizzly bear just calmly drinking out of a pond. There's a hunter peeking out from behind the tree, and all it's doing is drinking water. And he peeks out and he shoots it and kills it right there, and it goes over. And when it's stuffed in his study, it's like this. The guy's telling stories about how the monstrous grizzly came and attacked him, and he shot it. But all it was gently drinking, and he shot it.
Oh, wait a second. I see a bullet hole in the back of its head. No, you don't. Yes, I do. It's right there. I can put my finger. No, you don't.
Coming right for me.
Yeah. So I don't know if we're just as people who have an interest, enthusiasm for this subject. I have to think, who am I listening to? Is it Sasquatch that's turning the tables and behaving in a different way it never behaved before? Is it just the people who talk about it?
Well, I think with the Bauman story,
that means that we are getting all of our information on the subject just from other people. Everything we know about Sasquatch, everything we learn about Sasquatch, everything we talk about Sasquatch, we just heard it from somebody else. That's it.
And each time that story is told, we don't know what's being changed in that story.
Oh, for certain. It's not misinformation. No. A lot of times it's disinformation with hoaxsters and everything else.
When the early, John Green and Sanderson and stuff first read the Bowman story, it's just little things like statements in the story like, that bugger's walking on 2 feet, that kind of thing. That made
that's the only thing I found curious. Yeah,
that made them think, wow, this could be a Sasquatch related. And he's walking on 2 legs, and the tracks they aren't human, but they never said they saw claw marks in the tracks or anything like that. So
they never gave any description whatsoever.
It's not so much details in the story that made them think Sasquatch; it's details that was left out.
Yeah.
Well, I vote we give this story to the Dogman community and wash our hands of it.
I know. Quickly followed by 8 Canyon.
I completely disagree with you, Brent. I think it should be kept in the realm of Sasquatch classics like it's always been.
Yeah. Well, it is. It's part of the lore of it. That, real or not, it helped establish and promote, the Sasquatch myth and lore itself. So I mean, it does have value in that regards.
Yeah.
But
All we
Well,
know
don't you think Ape Canyon can fall into that category too? I hate to say that because Dicky's probably going to do a show next week on Ape Canyon.
I'm angry right
So
now.
I don't want to discuss it ahead of time.
There's so many that are going to fall into that category completely. And if you look at it, none of this really affects anything today. I mean, it's
a classic tale.
It's just a classic tale, and you take it and you love it or hate it. It doesn't really matter, but it's there and it's not going away because something happened. He put something in his book, whether it be fiction or true.
Yep.
It's
Many people surmise it was if he told it often enough to enough people, it's a good way to cover up the fact that he and his partner had a falling out. He killed his partner, hopped on his horse, and rode off into the sunset. And that was the story he made up as to why his partner ain't coming to dinner anymore.
He already had gotten away with it. He was an old man when he told.
Yeah, probably no need to bring it back up.
Hey, Thomas, you said yourself, some people love to be the center of attention.
Oh yeah,
he around many a campfire. He probably got a good few people saying, "Oh wow, that really happened," and blah blah blah. And I mean, you got a good story, you're going to tell it. And you're going to tell it as long as people hear it. We all have friends where we say, "Oh my God, if he tells me
only
time, I'm going to kill him."
The only reason anybody has any memory of an old man named Bauman who lived in the mid 1800s and was a frontiersman was Roosevelt included his story in his book.
Yeah.
That's it.
And say Bowman was real. He was real and he did tell a story.
Yeah.
We don't know if that was originally a rogue grizzly bear he's talking about.
Yeah.
And over 40 years, how long was it? He didn't talk about the story up until later. So we don't know if he did sensationalize it, and now he knows about Bigfoot. So now his grizzly just turned into a.
He may have told it a million times in saloons all over the frontier.
But it was a bear.
Roosevelt
now all of a sudden,
Roosevelt wrote about it. So and that's the only reason why we remember it today.
Well, it's as Jerry was kind of pointing out that it's good to vet these people out of what's being presented to really kind of double check it, kind of like what we're doing here is talk about it. And
that's all we can do is chat about it, and because none of us are right, none of us are wrong, really, other than the fact that
that's what makes Bowman.
What?
That's what makes Bowman, because there is so much you can learn from what's not said in that story. And it's a fascinating story no matter how you cut it.
Yeah, it is.
So it made it into a book. I mean, it is.
Canyon was Osterman was Osman. I don't put Micah Mountain in with those guys because Thompson he had it way ahead of those guys in his story. But 3 out of the top 4 ain't bad. 3 out of the top 4 are highly suspicious stories.
Almost all the classic stories are, because they're classic stories. There's really no way to follow up on them. Look at Jacko.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't talk Jacko. That's too far out even for me.
Well, we already did about 4 or 5 shows ago, so don't worry about
That's enough. Bury the monkey, for God's sake. Bury
the monkey. Oh,
well, no, it's Jacko, like this story and some of these other ones like we're talking about. It really hooks the newbies in because it's such a fascinating story, because it sounds really good.
Back in the 4 Horsemen days in the early 60s and 70s, those are the stories you read about over and over and over again, because basically those were the classics. So everyone repeated them.
Yeah.
Yep, everybody repeated them. Yeah.
For sure. For sure.
That's an interesting skull you got behind you there, Thomas.
What, the Gigantopithecus skull over here?
Oh, it's not a gorilla skull?
No, Gigantopithecus.
Okay.
We're not going to talk about gorilla skulls today.
We're not going there.
No, yeah. I think they're
Went
gonna
out
leave
the
that out
woods
there.
and never came back.
Whoa.
Oh gosh.
What
Michael
come
Jackson.
on,
Ha, ha.
the guy talks about Lady Bathory and Sweeney Todd and Jack the Ripper. You find it unusual. He has a skull on his.
I
Oh,
never
my
said
goodness.
I wasn't a strange man.
That's true. Hey, strange people are usually the best to be around.
I don't know.
Sometimes.
Yep.
Oh, man.
But
Alas, poor Yorick. I knew him well.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he
I
was Sasquatch of infamous, yes.
I found the Bauman tale fascinating because Roosevelt's book is fascinating. If you read this whole book, it's great stories of hunting and trapping and stuff, and what the frontier was like in the late 1800s. It's very good on that. And the
It's an
Bauman
amazing book.
the Bauman story just struck me as fascinating because he just casually bumps into this old guy named Bauman who says, "I got a story for you," and he tells it. Roosevelt sort of said, "That's entertaining," and he probably remembered it and kept it in his back of his mind because it was like another 4 years later he decided to write the book. He said he remembered Bauman and the story. He said, "Hey, I'm going to write about what that old guy told me."
Yeah.
He probably included it. And who knows? For all we know, Bowman may have mentioned the name of his partner, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But Roosevelt, oh God, what was his name? Oh, I'll just refer to him as his partner. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that could be right. That could be true. Could very well be true.
Yeah, you never.
But if you ever get a chance, and you can, look it up on Google, the name of the book, you can download it online for free. You can download the book online for free in a PDF file or whatever.
Oh.
Because I did that about a couple of months ago. And it is a fascinating book, like Thomas says. I sort of glanced all the way through it, but I got to set time aside to read the whole thing from cover to cover. It's really an amazing piece of, what the wilderness was like back then and how people lived and everything else. That guy wrote everything, like he had a diary and he wrote everything he came across about people and animals. And it's a great book. It's a great book.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it's still noteworthy to talk about. Some people might not think because it's, doesn't push that envelope, doesn't make you get any further down the field, but it's history. It's just history. And which I think makes it interesting, especially since it has a president, and in light of that, I'm going to ask you a president question.
Dun, 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 dun.
We got two Canadians here.
It got me curious
right.
to know to see how much I really knew about presidents from the beginning, and just because I went and I wanted to see where he fell in the line of presidents and who followed before him and after him and all that stuff. And I came across some trivia questions in regards to presidents. Are you guys game to see if have knowledge of this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, as a Canadian, no, but go ahead.
Oh yeah, they're both Canadians.
I'm
Yeah,
going
but
to rely on chat for this one.
Some of them are going to really, you're going to know.
Do
Like,
it.
which president was unanimously elected from 1732 to 1799?
Unanimously elected.
Yes.
Was
Which
it
president was
George
in-
Washington?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
First president.
The traitor?
Yep.
He was
Who
a
was
British officer that turned on us.
Who was the only president in the U.S. to hold the job of a hangman?
George Washington.
No.
No.
I cannot.
No. Was it at Madison?
Nope.
Okay.
Look at my giant water bottle.
It's enormous.
It is, but it has when you're supposed to drink. Because I'm not.
Okay, who's the hangman president?
Grover Cleveland.
Oh, okay.
Who was the only tailor ever to be president?
Sweeney Todd. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm eliminated.
Did anybody say Cleveland? Chessboard did, but I don't know if it was after me. Andrew Johnson was a tailor.
Tailor?
Before he became president. Yep.
He was a tailor?
He was a tailor.
Yeah, but then he got married, and changed his name to John.
Sweeney Todd. No, Andrew Jackson was
Jackson. Yeah,
he was a general of the war. He was a frontiersman before the War of 1812. He won the Battle of New Orleans, a battle fought 15 days after the war officially ended. And he had all kinds of. You think politics is vicious now? You should have seen it back in his day. Holy God, they literally fought each other at fists. Yeah. That was really something back then. Yeah. He's also Jackson is famous for making the story of the Bell Witch famous.
Who?
You never heard of the Bell Witch? That was that farm that was possessed in Tennessee that was harassing this family real bad, and Jackson actually stopped by and he said, "You know, I faced the British Army on the battlefield, but nothing ever scared me as much as the damn Bell Witch."
Whoa, was that Mary Carter Coy?
No.
She's not from Tennessee anyway. You know who I'm talking about? Mary Coy Carter, Mary Carter Coy, whatever her name is. The first habitation. No?
The Carter Coy farm is what you're talking about.
Carter Coy, yeah. Don't leave me out there hanging. I'll just leave him alone. He'll make an ass of himself. No, jump in and say, "You're mistaken, Jerry. This is the name." Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
One thing came of this. I found it really interesting that I did not know where the Rough Riders came from, how they were gathered together. They were a bunch of mercenaries, and do you know, Nikki, who the group was before them? It was Woody's Wandering something.
I was trying to look for it right now. I remember reading.
Yeah, and then Roosevelt took over, and they changed it to Roosevelt's Rough Riders.
Well, Roosevelt created the Rough Riders during the
Spanish-American War. Yeah, they fought in Cuba.
In Cuba, yeah. And the commanding general of that whole army was an ex-Confederate general who had flashbacks. And half the time he was ordering his men to shoot at his own men because he saw the blue shirts and he thought they were Yankees. He was kind of insane.
Oh, kind of. Yeah.
We're not fighting each other anymore, sir. We're fighting the Spaniards.
Yeah, that was the last war, sir. Yeah. This is a new one. Yeah. But
what's the next one, Nikki? Nikki?
Hold on, my computer froze. Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah.
Your image is kind of frozen up.
There's a storm brewing outside, so I think that's why I'm getting so much interruption here. It's like, yeah, it's gonna start raining pretty soon.
Oh, I thought you were going to
Let's
say,
see.
"Oh, I feel it. I feel a twinge in my knee."
It's yeah.
It's
That's
a
been
storm
happening for a
coming.
week now.
Yeah.
Feeling a twin. What's the only president that's never lived in the White House?
Oh wow.
Who was after Madison?
No.
Because the White House was burnt by us in 1812, and they couldn't live in it for a while.
Oh.
Thanks. Appreciate that
Don't
one.
bring that up again, Thomas. Darn.
Yeah.
Just stop talking about it.
Hey,
Start a world war, man. Come on.
you burnt Toronto down. We had to get you back today. We thank you for it, but we burnt Toronto down, and we got revenge by burning the White House and most of Washington down. There you go.
I think Papa C answered correctly. He was also a president which never represented a political party.
Well, who was after Madison? It has to be the one right after the War of 1812, after Madison.
No, actually, George Washington never lived in the White House.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't built yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why. That is why. But he was didn't have a political party yet.
Because I guess there was none.
They called themselves something, but I
The
can't
Whigs.
remember now.
The Whigs. Was it the Whigs?
Let me see if it says over here on this other one. It does not say. Okay. Who was the first president to be inaugurated in Washington, D.C.?
Brent, you know we're relying on you.
I know.
I want to say
You're like,
I can't possibly.
I would rely on the chat first. go to them first. You're lucky to have the smartest chat in the world. They'll get it.
LBJ.
It was Thomas Jefferson, and somebody over here said something about Thomas Jefferson.
Grasshopper.
Thomas
There you go.
said, and they stole the treasure of the White House, paintings, gold, and ships sunk off in Nova Scotia. And then
That's how we roll.
Thomas, could you guys do that again? We need a major douche down here.
No, because you'd end up with Trudeau, and you won't want that either.
Oh, good Lord. No.
Oh, yeah, nope. For sure, not that. For sure.
Don't start politics.
Okay, yeah. Well, yeah.
He says with the Canadian flag over his shoulder.
Oh, who was the only president to be elected for 2 non-consecutive terms?
2 non-consecutive terms.
Yep.
Non-consecutive.
1-3. So, but you talking about
They
President
lost office and then got
reelected again.
Yep.
Donald Trump, 2024.
That hasn't happened yet.
Yet.
So we go Rutherford B. Hayes, and then it goes James A. Garfield, then Chester A. Arthur, and then Grover Cleveland, Benjamin Harris, Grover Cleveland again. So
which one was only present for 9 days?
Oh, that was wait a minute. Where is it? Holy cow. I think that's actually one of the questions. Let me go over here.
Was it Grover Cleveland? Can't be.
It was.
He just got in and the poor guy died.
Oh, okay, so I have to look at one with the little.
That sucks. How did he die?
Don't know. That's why I can't even remember what his name was. Yeah.
March 4th through April 4th was William Henry Harrison.
Okay.
And then. Nope, that is not. Abraham Lincoln.
The only reason I remember it all was that
Garfield.
Was that Simpson sketch, The Mediocre President. I was only in for 9 days.
Oh, I don't know. There's a lot of presidents here. I think it was somebody earlier. Well, who was the first? Who was the only? Name the U.S. president born in the United States after the American Revolution.
Say the question again.
Name the first U.S. president born in the United States after the American Revolution.
John Adams.
Van Buren. Martin Van Buren.
Oh, okay.
Who was the only president to serve in both World War I and World War II?
Roosevelt.
No.
Eisenhower.
Yes, Eisenhower.
Ike.
Oh, you mean served in the army?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. When you said served, I thought, what? No way.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
All right.
served. It doesn't say army, but yeah, served in the military. Who was the first ever president to visit all 50 states? Wow.
That was
Really?
Teddy Roosevelt,
Oh my
wasn't it?
goodness.
That was Teddy Roosevelt, wasn't it?
That was Richard Nixon. I didn't believe
You
that.
tell me no one before the 1960s visited all the states?
Yep.
Huh, cool.
He was the first to do it. Who was the only president to resign?
Richard Nixon.
Richard Nixon. Hello, Mr. Moosinator. Thank you for joining us. In which U.S. president was also a licensed bartender? Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
George Bush.
No, think way early on.
Wilson.
No.
Bartender. He used to run a tavern, didn't he? What I'm thinking of.
Let's see if
Woodrow
anybody
Wilson.
else. Yeah, Papa C got it. Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, good job, Abraham Lincoln.
Really?
Okay. Name the only presidential candidate that was not a Mason in 1860. Abraham Lincoln again.
Abraham Lincoln. Who was the president of the president of the Confederacy?
Oh, that would have been
The name
Grant. Grant? When would that have
no.
been?
No, you're talking about a Confederate president?
Yeah, he was
General?
president of the Confederate States of America. There was only one. Yeah.
Okay. Now Grant was for the North, so that doesn't count.
You, Jolly Jake, Jefferson Davis. Yeah, I couldn't remember what his name was. That's right.
Yeah, you got the smartest
Jefferson Davis.
chat in the world.
Yeah. What's this with this grasshopper? Hey, man.
Thank you,
I don't
Jolly.
even see Jefferson Davis on here. Why? Why do I not even see that name anywhere? Oh, here it is. Which president held the shortest presidency on record?
Damn, I got to watch more Jeopardy.
It was William Henry Harrison.
Henry Harrison. And it was 9 days, right?
Well, no, it looks like it was from March 4th to April 4th.
Oh, 1 month.
Yep.
You're still holding out for that 9-day guy. I can tell.
Actually,
Every third one. 9 days.
Getting historical figures mixed up. Lady Jane Grey was queen for 9 days.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, okay, that's right. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What was Gerald Ford's name before he was adopted?
Who?
Gerald Ford.
Jefferson Davis.
No, the guy had 9 days. Ford, before he was adopted.
Before I didn't even, yeah.
Wow, I didn't even know that. I just
Before
finished
he was
watching the
adopted.
First Wives series a week ago, and he was one of the characters in it. I didn't know he was adopted.
His name, yes, Papa C again. Leslie Lynch King Jr. Lynch King, really?
A name that will be burned into your mind for the rest of your days.
Who was the youngest president at the age of 42?
JFK.
Actually, no, that was Theodore Roosevelt was only 42
Who?
when he took office. Theodore Roosevelt, Teddy.
Oh, okay. I thought John F. Kennedy was the
Yeah.
youngest president ever to serve in the White House. How old was Kennedy? I mean, I've seen that on
let's
documentary. John F. Kennedy,
see.
the youngest president we ever had.
Mm.
Well, you had.
Where is he? John F. Kennedy. He was in office in 1961. I wonder if I click on him, it'll tell me his birthday. Oh, okay. Here we go. 1917. He was born in 1917. Somebody has to do the math.
Who? For Kennedy?
Yeah.
So he was in his 40s.
Papa Craig says 52.
Well, he wasn't that old.
No, I think he was in his 40s.
I think he was 40, 41. That's why I always heard he was the youngest president that ever got elected.
Okay, so he was born in 1917 and oh man, it made me lose my president stuff.
Yeah, I'd say about 43, 44 years old.
1917, and he took office in 1961.
43.
Yep, 43.
And yeah, assassinated what, in 63?
Yeah.
Why did that not say?
Maybe it was because he wanted to take the U.S. back to a gold standard. Or maybe it's because he stopped our government from committing false flag attacks against the United States citizens.
Well, if you really want,
Or maybe it was because he snubbed Frank Sinatra and stayed at Peter Lawford's house instead, so Sinatra put the mafia hit out on him. That's my conspiracy theory.
Wow.
Look it up. It's a historical fact.
all your questions about the history of the president, you only have to talk to one woman. That's Granny Clampett from the Beverly Hillbillies. There's been only one president, according to her, Jefferson Davis.
Jefferson Davis. All the rest are a bunch of goomers.
No, they were in that war between the Yankees and the Americans.
We're going to start another civil war before we go off the air tonight, aren't we?
Yeah, no kidding, huh?
We'll just sit back and laugh, you know.
You remember that show? Granny was always fighting the Civil War.
Oh yeah, yeah. Civil War was still alive.
Is there any other Bigfoot news that happened this last week or two besides the Coyote and Peterson?
You know what I'm getting sick of is all these pictures lately there have been. I came across one just before I came on the air that was put up on a Facebook page. And now everybody's getting right off on cropping these animals' heads off and everything, taking pictures of them at weird angles. And there was one, oh, look, this one just out today, you know, unbelievable foot. I look at it. It's an animal with 4 legs, a big bushy tail, and half a head because it's been cut out.
We did that last week.
For God's sake.
Oh, that's a different one. No, that's
we
saw the.
I know we did the buffalo. You guys did the buffalo the other week.
Yeah, moose or buffalo.
Bear one in the river.
Bear, yes, the bear. Because I said that's a Sasquatch. Boy, he got awful scrawny arms for a Sasquatch. You know?
Yeah, that's why it's so important to, when people come across potential evidence, to properly vet it out, to learn the tools to properly vet it out, to, really do a due diligence before really committing yourself to believing it, because it just might not be real. Somebody up to shenanigans.
Well, that's presuming that somebody wants to work that hard at it, Brent. Most people just want to get their jollies and go on to the next page.
Yeah.
You know. Oh, look at that
Well,
picture.
somebody
Ha, 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 ha.
posted. Did you see how I tagged you in a post, Brent? Some guy posted the picture of the Yeti, the Bordenoof. I never can say that last name. Claiming that he had taken it like back in the 60s or something, because it's black and white. And I'm like, what? And he had his whole page convinced that it was an old photo he had taken. And I'm like, that is the Yeti of, whatever. And it was in France, and it was made out of the Minnesota Iceman. They wanted to make a replica of it and do the whole carnival thing with it in France. And I never heard back from the guy. I thought he would fight me on it, but he never responded back at all. And
we did a whole show about a year ago, Nikki, on the Minnesota Iceman. Remember that?
Yep, we sure did. And it just amazes me that people just won't do it. Takes you that long to find information out about pictures these days,
Well, I
That's
think
it. That people are too lazy. They're too lazy. They don't want to find out. It's like my wife. She says, "Don't watch that documentary on how they made the movie. I don't want to see." That's all. I don't want to see how it's made. Nope.
I think a lot of it is people are just too trusting of one another when it comes to this subject of what's being presented, and I think that's probably kind of what a lot of it is.
You got to remember when you look into things exposing a lot of the people in the so-called Sasquatch community, for lack of a better term, they don't want follow-up. They just want to believe. I mean, look what Jerry and I went through with the Chehalis sounds.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
they just didn't want to hear it. So
No. And I don't know which show it was on, but I believe you were talking, Brent, and you said about the difficulty in trying to straighten people out or whatever. I've come to the conclusion a long time ago, you can't straighten anybody out. Either they want to know the truth or they just want the story. That's it. They don't want to go through the effort of proving the story is right or proving. They just want the entertainment value. And 90% of what this Sasquatch big stuff is to people is 90% entertainment value. There's probably only about either getting it or giving it to make a buck. There's only probably about 5%, and I include all four of us here and maybe Joe over in New York, and they're about the only ones I've come across that just want to make some common sense out of it all.
Yeah.
Well, that's what my whole journey is. It's just more about kind of coming to finding out what's going on out there, not really to prove it, so to speak, not really to create some sort of narrative or make a name for myself or anything. That's kind of what I want to see. I just want to find out what's going on out here. And after 5 years, it's been quite a roller coaster, but I understand the journey when people are just coming into this subject or just into it for a couple of years or so, and how easily they can get pulled. What's that?
Wait till 45 years goes by.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping I get to see some sort of verification or something by that time. But it's just kind of what it is.
I remember that being said over 20 years ago. The very same thing. As a matter of fact, I think it was probably Thomas who said it. Do you expect Sasquatch to be appearing in the next 20 years?
I sent that back and back.
Instant reply.
I think we'll have an answer for this question in the next 10 years. At least.
Yeah, right. Dream
That's-
on, baby.
That's what I thought. You know, when I first got into this subject, I'm like, oh man, we're going to nail this thing here really quick. It seems like we're making a lot of progress. Everybody's working together. Oh, we got all this evidence and everything, but I was green. I was fresh. I didn't know what was really going on. I was too trusting of what was presented.
The researcher field is a researcher is supposed to be someone who's trying to find an answer to a mystery and a question. Too many act like religious leaders pushing a faith.
That's true.
You know?
That's well, yeah, you know, and I kind of ran into somebody like that, somebody who's trying to preach to me their version, their narrative of Bigfoot, and you know, it's like, well, I don't know who this person is, and kind of want to verify them, and you know, so I can listen and maybe take their information into account because maybe it's valuable or anything, but I like to verify who's presenting it. Who, as far as I know, this person could be like, you know, so out there with their beliefs that it's like, wow, you don't really want to spend a lot of time there. But, you know, some people, yeah, just don't, where I was going with that anyways.
You said it doesn't matter because I understand you because you said everything that I wanted to say just now. And I'll just sit back and let Brent run with it because he's saying everything I want to say. And you're absolutely right. The narrative is extremely important. Mm-hmm. It's more important than what you're talking about itself. It'll take you to the person who's giving this information, and you can figure out whether it's misinformation or disinformation for yourself. But the narrative is, where's this person coming from? Why are they saying this? And what have they said in the past? You know, it's exactly what you just said. And honestly, I don't think most people want to work that hard.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is that's what we should all be pushing for in this subject, because it is technically a research subject. And for us that are interested in the research aspect of it, not the entertainment side, we should fully flesh this out on how the information is being presented to the public and you know, how to best go about it, how to collect the evidence and stuff. Because like I've mentioned many times before, I just think it's a big red glaring issue that this subject is facing on why it's not really making any progress, because nobody's really knows how to research really too much, because we're all just out there trying our best, working with the technology that we have, which isn't much because we don't have the money to go throw tens of thousands of dollars and
because as somebody said in an interview which I did 20 years ago, which will be released in the next couple of weeks on audio talk, because it was only a transcript originally. And they said at that time that I forgot where I was going with it. There you go. Run the commercial.
I gave it. I put that off onto you there.
Man, you infected me.
Oh man, I was looking so forward, and then all of a sudden, technically.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Please stand by.
Yeah, but you know, I take this pretty serious. I like to have fun with it, and you know, try to have the enjoyment with it as well, and the camaraderie and all that stuff. But ultimately, the information that I try to surround myself with, you know, I want it to be the best as possible, and you know, that's why I kind of go the approach that I have is what it is because that's my ultimate goal. And there's so much bad information out there that, you know, it's just really I just really encourage people to develop the tools necessary to properly vet out what's being presented. And not everybody's going to want to take that journey and take that time and just accept everything at face value. And you know, those are the people you just have to let go and be like, those are just people who aren't on the same path as me, and just not really worry about them. But there's a lot of people like us that are serious about it, that are trying to get to some sort of truth and fact. I mean, that's what your whole show is about, Nikki, is presenting these type of facts and trying to separate fact from fiction. And like with this story tonight, I mean, look, I mean, there's no mention of a Bigfoot in it, but yet the Bigfoot community has adopted it as if it is a Bigfoot that did it, and it gets repeated as a Bigfoot story. Oh, look, Bigfoot was mentioned in the story, and you know, this is the first time I've really understood what was actually being presented. And it's really even more disappointing that the Bigfoot community is kind of running away with this without properly vetting it out. Just kind of presenting that like the Fort Chatham thing.
I never thought of it as running away with it. It's just one of the classic tales.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But people don't look into it. I had heard of the Bauman story, but I didn't have in the beginning, I never went and I looked at it or anything. I just took it from what people were saying. Oh, this, a hunter ran into Bigfoot, and it was his encounter of running into a Bigfoot. I wasn't told the circumstances that he never physically saw this beast. So and you just run with it, right? Because you don't know any better. And that's what my whole thing is that I just want people to have conversations. I want them to do a little more research into whatever they're reading, and not to take it, oh, it's on the internet, so it's real. It's all true,
Like I did when I first got into it. And it's not that you're gullible or anything like that. You just want it to be real so much that you're willing to ignore the red flags and not do the due diligence to find out if it really is true. And that's that's kind of where we're at.
Here's something you won't want to think about. If the Sasquatch does not exist and never did, every damn one of them is not true.
Yeah, but it seems like something's going on out there. Not everybody can be lying. And, just, I don't know. That's what kind of gets me, and why I'm still so fascinated by the mystery is the what if, the potential of it actually existing out there, because I can see it existing out there. I could see the viable food source, the cover, the concealment, everything. You can see it all out there, places where people don't go for long periods of times. And so they could exist out there. And, so I definitely think there's something to it. We just got to really kind of dial it in and really kind of figure out what really is Bigfoot related and what's not Bigfoot related, and not waste our time on some bush crash structure that, isn't even Bigfoot related.
Yeah. Right. I mean, remain highly skeptical. Like John Green said, don't let your presumptions turn into assumptions.
Yeah. Well, John Green, he said it really elegantly when he said, "Something's making those goddamn tracks."
Well, that's right. But aside from that, as I often said, above the tracks, we have nothing but air, figuratively and literally, because that's the only thing we have is the tracks. The rest is just what somebody else is telling you.
Yeah, and
unless you're one of some kind, and you believe you saw a Sasquatch, I'm not going to call you a liar. You probably did. I don't know. But for me, that's not proof or evidence of anything, Joe in New York, I don't know, Joe is here at the moment. He saw Rasta. Okay, Joe saw Rasta, and there's a lot of people out there with their own Rastas. I can't say, well, he actually did see one, and I certainly can't I see one, because that is his truth, and I as an individual, I have no proof to back it up or to say he didn't either way. But it's going around in circles a lot. It's like, has anything ever come out of it? Like I asked you, Brent, a few months back, do you see any changes happening? Do you see any more honesty out there? Do you see any more willingness to be skeptical out there? And you said, no, not really. And I got to say, I from what I've come across, it's the same thing. As a matter of fact, in some areas, it's worse than it ever was.
Oh, the hoaxing is epidemic proportions in my opinion.
Especially on the internet. I mean, it's so easy on the internet.
Yeah, well, it comes down to life is a track. We made a really good point here. The research is too individualized, and that's the thing is why it's really important to figure out who's presenting the good information. And we're talking about influence in the 1960s of that whole thing of how it established new lore in the whole Bigfoot community and stuff. And the same thing's happening right now as we speak. through Colorado Bigfoot and other people presenting all these narratives that have nothing to really, no reason why we should believe it other than because they say it. There's no evidence or anything to back it up.
You're absolutely right. And what you need is a set of standards.
Exactly.
And that's it. These are the set of standards. You need these 8 things, and you need them very well detailed. And that'll be the burden of proof of what you're talking about. I mean, I'm quite sure the BFRO started off with that kind of thing in mind back in the 90s or whatever. And they're falling far from grace with that one. And not because of the researchers themselves. They got some fantastic researchers, but it's the higher structure of what is evidence and what isn't evidence. And you got Nikki saying, well, I got evidence. And you got you saying, I got evidence. And I'm saying, I got evidence. Match with each other. So who's right? You need a common shelving system. And the only way that can be done is by a group engagement. It cannot be done as individuals, as you pointed out.
Well, yeah, but even trying to create some sort of group panel, that would never work because they would be considered some sort of hierarchy that we were supposed to bow to. So that sort of peer review wouldn't really work. It's just have to change the understanding of the people presenting the evidence to the public, is change their mindsets of how it's supposed to be done. And the people who don't want to participate, that are just saying, oh, hey, go look at my 600 videos, there's all my evidence, not really doing anything to present it. Those are the people you can just kind of cast aside as not being, people that we should listen to, or people that there's no reason why we should trust them and stuff. And it really kind of helps, separate on people we should probably be more listening to, because there's a lot of people listening to us that are trying to go out there and find their own evidence, their own Bigfoot and stuff like that. And that's why I try to present myself as so, there's different ways of going about it.
I personally would advise everybody not to spend too much time worrying about what everyone else in the field is doing. Just concentrate on your own research and try to get this question solved.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Thomas, I have very much, but can I interject at the same time? That doesn't do anything for creating a standard of evidence or proof or whatever that the vast majority of the community can agree upon, just for the sake of not going.
Yeah, one man's standard is another man's heresy. You'll never get everyone.
Well, exactly. But that doesn't mean that the idea is defeated. I mean, yes, there's individuals, so there's going to be individual results coming out of it. But if you can get a large group of people to agree, I think that is a step in the right direction. It's been done before. The BFO tried it. Sasquatch Research Initiative tried it back in the early 2000s. Yeah, I don't know what happened to them. They suddenly disappeared off the face of the earth, but they had the right idea. They were all ex-BFRO field people. I
was one of the founding members of SRI, and what basically happened was we just realized we're just spinning our wheels, and we slowly broke off and we're going in our own directions at the time.
But you have really good people there.
Oh yeah, we did, and we still do communicate. Though
I totally respect each and every one of those guys and gals.
But I still think the best way to go about it is not really worry about the community as a whole. Just carry on with your own research. That's what I've been basically doing forever. So
that's the best thing to do, because you're not going to change the community as a whole, but you can influence and be influenced by the peers that you surround yourself with, the quality people. And that's where I push people to kind of gravitate towards. Don't try to change the community as a whole, but focus on the group that you're working with and the strengths and weaknesses within that, to create an overall objective and goal to go out there and make progress, get that ball going down the field, do it in a collaborative way that makes sense, that is going to bypass all this nonsense of what's really not Bigfoot out there and stuff, and really make some sort of progress. But that's really hard to do in this subject. Really, really hard.
Absolutely. And Jerry, what he said there, moving the ball down the field, that's American for moving the puck down the ice.
I got you. Forward pass. I got you.
Oh man.
Yeah. But,
Now I forgot what
I mean, it's been said for 20 years, and it's true. Sasquatch is not going to be discovered on the internet. It ain't going to be discovered on the internet. If you're out there listening to this tonight, it ain't going to happen. It ain't ever going to happen. So get that out of your head.
They can develop the tools, though, necessary to go out there and look for quality evidence.
Yes.
It's about balance. You got to balance it out between education, online learning from good quality people about what you should really be looking for, to go out there, to go with the boots on the ground. Now, not everybody is going to be a boots on the ground. That you have, Sean was talking about armchair researchers. Armchair researchers are such a vital part to the research subject, because, you know, everybody has, again, their strengths and weaknesses, and the research aspect of it, really trying to figure out what's evidence has been collected, really trying to flesh it out, is incredibly important. So the armchair researchers are just as important as the people out there collecting the evidence and having these experiences. So they're, in my opinion, they're just as equal. So there's no tier in my opinion.
I think the online armchair researchers have a very important role, because they are at their fingertips so much information that you don't, so much information to coordinate with others and to ignore the bullshit from others. So you're right. It's all in dealing with your own ego, your own sense of standards, and what you're in this game for. And then once you have an understanding of that, then going out into the field and using that to practice with. Here, doing this, you're not going to accomplish anything. It's entertainment value. You pass a few hours or something, and then you go watch. Someone is sitting here saying that, okay, man, that was what he said. Yeah, I could live with that. And they incorporate it into their work effort and hope for is, you know, I mean, that's, I'm sure that's what we're all here for. Sitting here talking about this.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's like, hopefully we can inspire somebody to go out there and collect the evidence needed, the proof needed to show the rest of the world outside of shooting one. Going out there, getting the 15 minutes of HD BBC quality footage that we all need. Maybe our conversations will inspire those people to go out and do it. The whole butterfly effect, and that's what I'm kind of hoping on is because I don't think I'm ever going to be the person, but I think that we might be reaching the people that can be that person, and I think those are the people that hopefully we influence in a way that is going to get what we need, pretty much.
I think if photographic or video evidence is ever turned in, that will probably at least get everybody thinking about it, because film or video will never prove its existence unless it was right in front of you. It's going to be a professional study group who had nothing to do with the Sasquatch whatsoever. They're going to go out there doing a study on grizzly bears, or they're going to be out there doing a study on wolverines or mountain lions and accidentally come across something. Or it's going to be some anthropology student who comes across the physical remains in a dust-covered box or museum drawer somewhere.
Yeah.
So many great discoveries were done by accident.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
There will be some 10-year-old kid with his iPhone out there on a family vacation, and boom, he has a 10-minute video of a Bigfoot watching him and his family
You got it.
moving between trees, interacting with the environment, showing inhuman movements and stuff. That there, I think, would be the new PG. I think that would reignite this subject in a way never seen before. It would be huge. It wouldn't be
I think so.
it wouldn't be proof of a species, but it's proof that I don't know what it would be proof of. Honestly, I don't know.
Well, we're in a phenomenon that's struggling just to survive and drag its sorry tail along the pavement when it comes to the Sasquatch phenomenon. The only people that are really gung-ho about it are people new to the subject or people who are trying to make a buck. And as for the rest of us who are caught in between somewhere, just trying to make sense out of it all, it's a tough road. It's a tough road.
It's not going to go away.
Understand. No, I can understand why some people say, that's it, I'm out of here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I'll revisit the subject 10 years from now, but I had enough of this crap. I'm out of here.
Well, I'm sure that happens quite a bit. And another reason why this subject is at the state that it is, it's in disarray. There's not a lot of people out there looking for Bigfoot in a way that they need to be doing it right, and collecting the evidence and all that. Man, there is you could probably, you could fit them on a school bus easy, a small school bus.
Six-seater.
Yeah. So, but there are good people out there, but man, it's just, I just don't think that there's really a big push for actual research. We see a lot of LARPing and a lot of people.
You're going to find that whatever we do, we're on this plane where our community is got those different groups, okay, that believe in different things. And it's very hard to sway them into a different group. You were successful because you wanted to find the truth and you went out and researched yourself and found out, oh, this guy's a loon. That tree doesn't have a Bigfoot living under it. You went and you checked it out and you found out your answers, but not everybody can do that. So they get sucked into these people who are showing pictures of bushes, and our minds create pareidolia and matrixing and changes it. And they say, that's my Bigfoot. Look at the eyes, and they're telling them what to see. And then that's what they're seeing, and that's not good enough. That's not what we need. You want to keep taking pictures like that, keep them to your damn self. And until you have a photograph that comes up and can be compared to a Patterson-Gimlin type footage, we don't, why even look at it? If you have to circle something, that shouldn't even be released. That's nothing.
There's a lot of people out there who still believe that, Nikki. Hey, look at my picture. See the Sasquatch there? Sad. See it next to the tree? And they don't care. I mean, it's like we're back in the 90s again. They don't care if you say, I don't see anything. What are you talking about?
Right. Well, then
then they start attacking you.
Yeah. I mean, those are the people you just don't really listen to. You just kind of, oh, look, they're posting another pareidolia picture. Because, if they're going to present evidence to the public, again, it comes down to how is it being presented. If they should have a before after comparison, maybe going out doing some sort of research on it, not just posting a blurry picture of a shadow and saying, hey, look at this, I see his name is Tom now or whatever, and there's Tom, look at him.
I see a lot of people who used to be flesh and blood and used to be on the right track but have changed because they can't find answers now. All of a sudden
boredom
they changed, and now they're seeing things and posting and making videos that are garbage. It's just garbage, and they still have followers, and it just amazes me that people with their own eyes,
it's this garbage, Nikki, is this garbage that makes the general public, as Thomas often said, think we're nuts. Yeah, because that's all they hear is the garbage. That's all they hear is the disinformation. That's all they hear. Very few of them hear us talking.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I think
our
type of group is in the minority of our community.
Oh, very much so.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, nobody. I think we're probably like the least liked minority group in the subject because we talk more factually about the subject in a way that other groups don't, and it's just not as fun as those other groups because ours is not as glittered with gold type of thing where
Right.
it's just
We are a
wonderful.
niche within a niche. We're in a niche of Sasquatch phenomenon, and then we're in a niche of the development of such.
I think
And
he called it subculture.
oh, we're definitely that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's true. And like I'm sure like half the audience right now doesn't really like the way I go about the Bigfooting stuff or what I really have to say or my perspective of it, because it's not as glamorous as you'd want it to be. But that's only after coming out, years of researching it hardcore and.
And I got to warn all you young guys thinking of getting into this. You tell people you're into Sasquatch research. Some people in the public might find that interesting, but I tell you, it doesn't attract the chicks.
Yeah,
Thomas, you are a
that's
liar.
You kind of leave out. That's date number 2.
You have often said to me, boy, I'll tell you some story about some crazy chicks I've met over the years.
Well, I'm not talking about the crazy chicks.
Now you're
Yeah,
Sasquatch have you slept with? Yeah.
Yeah, you whip out the cast and stuff on date 2 and the whole Bigfoot thing. Anytime before that, you don't get.
It just goes south, huh?
But guys, here's one for you. Here's
don't walk in with the cast, guys.
But here's one for you. Now, North American Indians have Sasquatch subject a lot. It's a boogeyman, it's a spirit, it's a blah, blah, blah. Who often attacks them, destroys their villages, rapes their women, impregnates some. Now, I just thought about that there a couple of nights ago. Impregnate? The story of Serafina here in BC, who brought a baby to term when she returned to her tribe and it died. I thought, wow, you mean these Sasquatch have a close enough DNA to humans to be able to impregnate a human? Just think about that for a while. Even if one of those stories is true, that is amazing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't know, he's talking about another classic tales from the 19th century, Serafine Long, who was a woman on the Chehalis Reserve here. She was never photographed until she was an old woman and she nearly died just before she died. But as a young woman in 1871, she claimed a Sasquatch had picked her up, covered her eyes with pitch, and carried her off somewhere to a cave in the Morris Mountain region, where she basically was in an Albert Ostman situation with a number of these creatures for a while, and she wanted to get away. So she basically said to the Sasquatch, "I want to see my people before I die." Lesson here, nagging works even on a Sasquatch. So the creature picked her up again, covered her eyes with pitch, and dropped her back off where he picked her up. And when she was recovered by her own people, she was pregnant. She gave birth the next day to a rather hair-covered baby, which died immediately. And that was the story of Serafine Long. Now, is it true? Or was Serafine Long a young woman who was in an arranged marriage with a young man, but was in love with a different young man, ran away with that other young man, get knocked up by the other young man, and made up this whole story to cover her infidelity? We will never know. It is a classic tale. Serafine Long.
But hers isn't the only one. There are many such tales in North.
Yeah.
About the hairy ones impregnating their women. So I mean, wow, you got to think about that. I mean, that's pretty close to being a human being, isn't it? I mean, you can't get any closer. If you're able to impregnate a human female.
Yeah, I mean, it does make you wonder about that, the whole crossbreeding. I mean, it's possible, but yeah.
But I also believe in feral, humans out there, people that have just somehow lost their way. Young lost their way, grew up in the woods, and it's possible.
But then would that
Oh
even
yeah,
be
but then
possible
you're
though?
then you but then yeah, sure. But I mean, then you're moving the subject away from Sasquatch. Yes, anything is possible. But I mean, we're discussing Sasquatch, Bigfoot kind of thing. Of course, there are feral people in the woods. There are all kinds of
Yeah.
weird people out
Yeah,
there.
that's true.
But I mean, if you're
Wow.
going to believe in Sasquatch as it is reported to you, well, then you have to contemplate all the different aspects of it. And that's just something that occurred to me in the past week. I've heard thousands of these stories over the years. But I just stopped for some reason. Maybe it's about the abortion bans or something. And I thought about, whoa, what about those Indian tales I read over the years about, Sasquatch or whatever? And I said, that's a head trip, that one,
Yeah, I've been
Okay,
reading up on
just idle chit chat.
Yeah, I've been reading up on the whole Matt Johnson portal event, and wow, that's a rabbit hole to go down. And that spawned the whole new genre. I guess we could say it's the new attribute of Bigfoot is portal making. It's like Superman. It's the Superman effect where, which each creator, each supervillain that came across, Superman had to develop a new power, or to be better and stuff. And it seems like Bigfoot's the same way. And just with that whole portal event, it's like, man, it's just it goes back to what we're talking about, how information is influenced or is taken as fact by the people who are influencing it at the time. Because
I think a lot of people sort of go off on that paranormal. They get bored, they're not finding anything and stuff, and they start trying to use paranormal explanations to explain the lack of progress. And that way, it's a circle; it never ends.
But this portal event, it's a lot different scenario because Adam and John are third parties to Matt, and it's just fascinating. Because it's like, wow, what really happened there? Something happened because they make very specific claims of what they saw and heard, and zero evidence, of course, of it when there could be. But it's just such a fascinating story, that. I'm just like in a deep dive. I wanted to kind of do a video about it. Like I want to do a video about like a dozen other things, but this is one that, man, it's just so interesting because it's like, well, what did they see? They're very adamant about seeing something. None of it really makes sense. And it's like created such a Bigfoot like lore from it, of like this whole cult. Matt started a cult from it basically. So like it's the basis of his cult.
I can't.
So I want to ask you something. Now I'll start with you, Nikki. What is your favorite or not favorite, whatever, the report you're most impressed with that you ever heard? And then Brent can answer and Thomas can answer and I'll answer. What stands out for you, Nikki? Say, man, this is I believe this, or I wish I could believe it.
Every time I believe in something, any story or anything that's come out, Thomas has gone and ruined it for me. I totally believed in the Freeman footage. I totally believed in the Freeman footage. I believed in Paul Freeman, and I loved him. And then
we all did in the beginning.
Ruined it. So
I believe Paul Freeman at first too when he started, much longer than I should have. Yes, I knew him. Yeah.
So I want to have all this. Here we go again. Belief, okay, in that this is real creatures because I know of people who have seen them, and I want to believe them.
Well, I mean, I'm asking what story impressed you the most?
But that's what I'm trying to say. In the beginning, I had many. The Freeman footage, the oh gosh, now I can't think of the the Bigfoot that pulls the big old piece of bark off the tree. But then they say that was part of a commercial or something they were going to be doing, right? That one. Everything has been fouled up for me. I don't believe hardly in anything anymore. I have doubts about everything I see now. I have become one of these true skeptics that I
No,
want
you
to,
become a good researcher, and a healthy dose of skepticism is the best quality you can have.
yeah, but I can't answer that question, Jerry, because
Okay.
there isn't any. I mean, people ask me, well, you don't believe in the
I
Patterson
understand
Gimlin.
where you're coming from.
Yeah. And I'm still only 75, 80% on the Patterson Gimlin footage. I'm not 100% believer in it. And I have my reasons, and nobody can tell me wrong either because we don't
No.
know.
Well, I mean,
So,
like you, maybe like yourself, I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket. I mean, it's immaterial to me whether the Patterson Gimlin film is real or not. That is not what caught my interest in the subject, and it hasn't kept me in it for 20 years or so.
yeah, me
It was a
either.
nice hook. It was a hook, definitely.
Right.
It was a hook. You say, hey, look at this, look at this. And you looked at it all right and said, oh, wow, that's something. But then I went inside to see the movie. Reasons for wanting to be involved in the Sasquatch thing. So, yeah, I hear what you're saying. What about you, Brent? What's your favorite report?
Well, actually, it's an account that I came across on YouTube probably like 5 or 6 years ago. It's about a guy who is like Kentucky Bigfoot eyewitness report, and so it's just a guy who's recounting about an experience that he had with a Bigfoot, him and his girlfriend and his dog, and it's the guy there. He's just being filmed and stuff, and there's something about that story that really sticks with me, that I think that it's just so believable to it. Like, I don't pick up any signs of deception. I'm really good at stuff like that. Just, picking up subtle cues of, any sort of deception. And this guy is just like, I really like his story. I will post it in the comments section below after we're done with the live stream of it. But it's just such a fascinating story because it's him and his girlfriend and his dog's interaction with this Bigfoot, and that takes place at this it's a horse pen area where there's horses involved too. And he talks about how the horses interacted with them and how the dog interacted with potentially running into a Bigfoot and stuff. So I can't really say much about it, but I'll post a link.
Yeah, look forward to reading that.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a video of the guy just talking about what he saw, and it's just like, wow, it's just such a fascinating story that it's just stuck with me as one of the true believable stories that you come across, outside of the people that we usually interact with and talk with and stuff like Joe.
That's something I noticed. The video is videos don't lie if you're a perceptive kind of person.
Yeah, and it's because you could pick up on a lot of cues with somebody when they're being deceptive.
I mean, the body language, everything. As Leon would say, go to a site and study about body language. It'll help you immensely when it comes to talking to other people. And so what about you, Thomas? What stands out in your mind?
Are you asking about in general or ones I was personally involved with?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, in general, I would say the two favorites that always kept me intrigued that I was not personally involved with would have to be the Ruby Creek incident of September 1941, the Chapman incident, and of course the Patterson Gimlin film, October 20th, 1967. Now, ones I was personally involved with, my favorites are the Waterton Lakes National Park Crandall Campground incident in 1988, the Cheam Mountain Archibald incidents of 2008, where two witnesses had two different encounters half a mile apart, just a couple hours apart.
Yeah.
And of course, my favorite has got to be the Bald Bear Creek tracks of August 1986.
So you got a few. I personally know of
like Nikki. I believed in so many stories when I started, but I looked into them and I found out things. That made me question Paul, one of them. Right. Yeah, and And so many things that really intrigued me and got me interested in the first place when I started, I now almost write off.
Well, we all grow.
Yeah.
We all grow, and our opinions differ over the years. And
There's even a few that may be true, but because certain individuals were involved, throws a dark shadow of cloud of doubt over the whole thing. Like, that is the Bosberg cripple prints of 1969. You know, the fact that Marx was involved has to throw that shadow of doubt. But I just can't forget what Rennie told me, because he was personally involved in that one. And I still think the Bosberg crippled prints could be possibly true. Yeah.
You know, Grasshopper, I'm going to drive out there this week to that gate, and I'm going to check out John Kirk's sighting.
I took you there, didn't I, Jerry? Yeah.
We passed by one day in the Ranger. I think we drove by it, but we didn't stop to look.
Yeah. By the way, that's another good one.
Yeah. Mine personally, just for the fact that there were so many damn witnesses within the 2-hour period or so that this lasted, was your baby, the Crandall Campground. That is a triple A report. That is a triple A report. You've got people that will stand up to the test of time. You've got oh my God, I don't know how many people were involved as witnesses.
At least 4, possibly
in the
7.
short period of time that it was happening. I thought it was just amazing, just for that alone, that you could have so many witnesses seeing the same thing within very short space of each other. Archibald was good, but they didn't see it at the same time. They saw the same creature on different nights. But Crandall Campground really gets my vote as the best till this day that I've ever read. You know,
maybe another classic tale someday.
What year was that?
1988, May long weekend, the Victoria Day long weekend. Yeah, Queen Victoria's birthday is a holiday up here in Canada.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'll tell you how much people like to hear stories. Thomas's, the shows that we do, the Thomas Steenberg Chronicles, they're always the top rated on our YouTube channel. And same thing on all the podcast channels too. Thomas comes in with his reports as number 1. You know, and then the Bookwas crew as a group come in as number 2, and I come in as somewhere down in the basement. We won't talk about that because it makes me cry. So, you know, and I don't want to cry on the live streaming. So, yeah, but I mean,
there, Jerry, don't cut yourself short. It's a good job you're doing on that.
Well, you know, it's Thomas being consistent over all the decades when he's in this subject and holding stuff to a higher standard and all that stuff on, you know, just being consistent on keeping that high level, not really deviating from the facts like you have been. So it's like, you know, that's why you're so well renowned in the subject. And, you know, everybody I come across that know you, it's always, people always speak good stuff about you. So you're one of the more well-liked people.
Also one of the most despised.
Not that I've come across.
Mind.
Not that I've come across. I think a lot of people respect you. They respect your position, your stance on it. I know I do. You know, and it's a good way for us to learn from. You know, you're like the original gangster as the Bigfoot researcher that we should kind of mold ourselves after, because you're doing it the right way. You're not getting the evidence that everybody wants because it's not out there to get. You're properly vetting stuff out and you know what to look for and stuff. So kudos to you.
I'll just repeat my main philosophy: stick to the facts, never deviate from the facts.
You know, the biggest comments I ever gotten over the years, especially on the internet, was when people would write me little hate letters saying, "Oh, you're one of those guys from the Steenberger school, are you? You're against twisted trees. You're against Nest. You're full of shit." I say, "Yes, sir, I am from the Steenberg school, and I'm damn proud of it too."
Yeah, I'll get that
And that's all
tattoo.
I have to say to them. Yeah, I'd like to get a tattoo on
Yeah,
that. My wife
I'm
wouldn't
willing
like
to
for
get a
me
tattoo.
to,
Actually, I might do that.
but
Get a
Thomas's
Thomas
face.
tattoo. Yeah.
Well,
I
with
like
the
that,
P hat,
actually.
with the P cap, not
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
Severity cap, P
Yeah,
cap.
with
Yeah.
the pipe
the
coming
pipe.
out. I
You
might
got
actually
it.
do that. I've been
Yeah.
looking for another tattoo, so I'm gonna actually do that.
Yeah.
Yep, right there.
Krakatoa.
We got
Going on the left cheek or the right cheek?
Leon's in the house.
Hey,
Alex,
Oh my
Leon!
God.
Alex is in the house too.
What's up, Alex? Doing some really good work out there. Been really digging your guys' Small Town Monster releases.
For sure. For
Good stuff.
sure. Well, gentlemen, we are at over 2 hours. I think this was a great
That's right.
discussion. For
It
sure.
was.
I want to thank
I
everybody.
think it is. I think it's always a great discussion when we get together.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure.
Yeah.
And just I want to thank everybody for all the well wishes and prayers that I get my knee fixed, or not fixed but healed. It's just a healing matter, and that's going to take its sweet time. I have not canceled my trip to Arizona. I have just altered it a bit. What's going to happen now is that instead of going for 2 weeks, I'm going for 1 week, and my husband will be taking me. So now he's involved.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Oh,
gonna
nice
be in the thick
guy.
of it. Yeah, he didn't want me to go by myself, and he knew how much I wanted to go and not miss the trip.
Oh, look at
But
that. That's a great husband right there.
so
Oh,
he managed.
Nikki, did the doctors give you a timeline when you may be able to get rid of the crutches and all that again?
No, nope. He said 8 days to 8 weeks. He goes, no, nobody knows how long it takes. If you try
I'd
to
lean
use
towards
it,
the 8 weeks.
yeah, if you try to use it before your time and or push it too much, it could, take longer. So, anyway, I mean, it I think it was coming on already. It happened, and I'm glad it happened and not out in the woods where we were, hours away from a hospital. When it happened, it was devastating to me.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Changed
my
plans from the
daughter and my
22nd
husband.
and
What was that?
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, between my husband and my oldest daughter, my youngest daughter too, we'll get everything packed up and ready to go. I'm hoping to be more up on my feet this coming week. I don't want to push it too much, but I have to do the packing. I mean, that's my thing.
Well,
To be there to
I
tell
would
them,
just sit get like a nice lawn chair and just direct your kids. Like, okay, put this over here, this over here.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
Yeah, just look at it this way. On this trip, you're going to be the queen.
Yeah.
I
You should get him to have like a little thing to carry you out on.
Oh
That's
my
right.
goodness. I'm like, I was talking to my sister, telling her, I'll go, but it's gonna be, I'm not gonna be me and getting into everything and making my camp the way I like to have it and blah blah blah. She goes, no, you won't. She goes, it'll be the best because you won't have to do shit. She goes, everybody's gonna help you, and I go, yeah, I know they will, but it's hard for me to do that.
Yeah,
It's
she'll be
awkward.
like you said, Brent. She'll be carried in with 6 bearers, 4 carrying the pallet, and 2 guys behind her with big spruce tree branches.
I expect some video up there,
away.
Nikki, of you up there with your little camera. Here we are coming in again.
I'm just gonna be the camera girl sitting down recording everything.
Just don't let the power go to your head, Nikki, and turn into another, battery.
Yeah.
We'll send you a whip so you can have that. So you can speed up, guys. Speed up.
Come on, we should already have this tent up. Come on.
Come on, guys.
But what did Alex is saying something. My brother knee surgery, it's quite an ordeal, but wishing you the best. Thank you very much. Very much. I can do. The way this whole health system works is I don't even have I have a virtual appointment on the 22nd. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to be here. I'll just take it out. Hopefully I get a signal out there or somewhere.
Yeah. So I was going to
Otherwise-
ask you, Nikki, is this it for the month for you? I mean, you're going to be out of town now, and what's going to happen to Hairy Man for the next couple of weeks?
Well, we'll see. We'll see if what's next week? Where's my calendar? We are looking at July. I think, and today's the 10th. Yeah, I don't know if I'll have one next Sunday or not. I might have a Hairy Man late night in between there somewhere because I didn't have any this last week. But I'll be around in the chats and stuff. I just probably won't produce a show like this until after we get back. And maybe we can get signal out there. I don't know. We'll see.
Who knows? Yeah.
See about getting a booster or something.
We might have a
Buy a lot
live
of
show
tinfoil
out
or
there.
something.
So
You do good work here, Nikki. This is a great channel.
It is.
You're very creative.
And it's all Nikki
inventive.
too.
And it's all Nikki. And
it's all Nikki. I show up literally like 5 minutes before, and I'm like, "Hey guys, what's up? What's the subject here?"
I'm like, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah. So this 100% Nikki. 100%.
I drop by and I see Brent, and I say, "Oh, it looks like he just crawled out of his sleeping bag. Now he's sitting
sometimes." I was like, literally, like I was taking a nap, and literally, like a minute before the show started, I'm like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "Jeez."
I'm like, "Oh my! I didn't think you were gonna make it."
Yeah. I was like, "I'm gonna take a quick nap.
Yes,
I know I'll wake up."
Yes, I was planning on camping on the Mogollon Rim I was gonna be there for 4 days, but now it's kind of dropped down to 2 nights, 3 days type of deal. And then I was gonna do some other camping with some family at Whitehorse Lake, but that has been squashed. That has been cut out of the agenda. So it is what it is, but I really want to see my Bigfoot family out there, and that my husband's gonna make that happen. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, it'll be crazy, amazing.
That's awesome. So, yeah, I'm going to the Bumping Lake thing too this month. So it's going to be an active month for Bigfooting. Hopefully this month this will be the month of the Sasquatch, huh? July.
For sure. Well, it's the summer, and we're all looking forward to getting out and doing stuff. And
is it going to be a full moon when you guys are going to be doing your camping?
I never even checked. I don't know. I'll have to check that out.
Because there's people that go back and forth. Oh, you should have moonlight. Oh, you shouldn't have moonlight. Because they will come out at whatever times.
Whatever. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think we're going to be laughing it up too much to get any kind of activity. But you never know. You never know.
I'm heading out there with them. I begged, and I begged a lot, like a ton, and they were like, "Okay, fine, you can come." And so heading out there with Tate and Tristan.
Oops,
I met Tristan a week ago or so. Good guy. Did a live stream.
Stop eating my cord. Oh my
God. Looking for Bigfoot and stuff.
Oh, just before we start it off, I'd just like to say. There are a lot of good blunt discussion blogs out there, but you won't do any better than Hairy Man Hoaxes and Hoodwinks. Great show. Nikki done a great job on this.
Thank you so much.
Talk and bluntly talk. And to people who have no particular interest in the Bauman Story, I still highly recommend the book, The Wilderness Hunter by Theodore Roosevelt. It's a great read about life on the American frontier in the last century. Can't go wrong.
And I'll wrap my end up by saying, Nikki, this is the second time myself and Thomas has appeared on your show together. I know what it's like to have a black cat as a producer, so that's okay.
She must get through my cord.
I fire mine 5 times a day, and anyway, let's not get into that. And this is the second time myself and Thomas have been together on your side. I think it was your very first show that we were together. Bill was with us at the time.
One of them. Yeah.
And
I don't know. Early on.
yeah, first or second show, I don't remember. But you've come a long way, girl.
Thank you very much.
You run a nice, tight operation. I'm really impressed. I am really impressed with what you've accomplished in the past.
Thank you. Well,
Yeah,
when you're surrounded by good people, things just happen. So
And everybody out there, definitely, if you love Harry O'Han, Hooks and Hoodwinks, you got to check out the Book Watch crew with Jerry Matthews there.
yes, definitely. Jerry puts out some amazing, amazing stuff. So the interest just grabs you, And Brent's been going out and doing some stuff that's just amazing. You just want to see a Bigfoot walk by.
Yeah.
I just watched. I'm watching the background.
Yeah, that's why I like going out there. It's like people get to see where Bigfoot potentially lives. Where areas where they're reported at, and get to see like what they have to deal with, like how they have to hop over trees and go fall, and make their own way sometimes. And so it's always fun bringing people along on those journeys. I really, that's one of my main goals of the channel, is just to bring people along so they can kind of, I like to consider myself more of an avatar for them to, experience what we're experiencing through them.
Brent, you and guys like you're the future of this research. Guys like me, we're getting long in the tooth. We can't move like we used to. You still can, man, and it's up to you guys.
Yeah, well, we're trying. I mean, we're learning. We learned everything from you, so we're just really reapplying it and doing our best out there trying to collect evidence. But we're not out there really collecting a bunch of anything, because, like I say, we vet it out and we have the tools necessary to properly vet this stuff out, so we don't have to worry about presenting bad evidence to the public.
I'd rather have a good research expedition that finds very little than a BS one that finds everything under the sun in their
Yeah. Well, I'm very excited about this expedition that's coming up, Bumping Lake. There's a bunch of people getting together, and it really looks like it's going to be a good effort of like-minded people getting together to really try and learn more about what's going on out there in the forest, and doing it in different ways. And it's going to be a really fun experience. So
you're well respected. You're well respected, Brent. And when you talk, people listen.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Well, the ones who don't listen, who gives a damn about them?
My kids don't listen. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I mean, the people that you're talking to, they get your drift.
Yeah. Hopefully, I think I'm misunderstood more often than not. I think. Especially with certain people.
Well,
club, it's going to continue that way, and for a very long time, I can guarantee.
Yeah, that's why I just ignore it and kind of keep doing what I think is the right way to go about it, and really kind of put myself in situations where you think you might have an experience, might run across one, and I get people coming at me all the time with really good ideas and really good information, which I value. I really appreciate people talking to me about their experiences, about what works for them and stuff, but do it in a respectful way, and have a conversation that's a good, healthy conversation. So I love stuff like that, because, everybody has something you can learn from everybody. There's something to learn from everybody out there, and, not everybody, but you got to figure out who to listen to. But anyways, I'm rambling about nothing, so yeah.
You sound like me.
Geez, I don't even know where I'm going with this one now. I'm like going somersaulted back way around, and it's like, there we go.
Myself and Thomas.
That's what I feel like.
We're old and we're adults, and we don't know what we're saying half the time.
Yeah,
but it's cool, man.
What the hell are you talking about?
In the audience there in the chat, it wouldn't be possible without you guys. I'm sure Nikki loves having you every night, the turnout that she gets.
Oh yeah, I love it. Love it, love it, love you guys. And gentlemen, wait for me in the back for a sec, and I will be with you shortly. Again, everybody, goodbye. Thank you. And man, it's been a great one. And you'll see me around for sure. Love you guys.